All right, peace and Black Power family. So thank you for joining me here yet again. First and foremost, before we even get started, shout out to my bro, Ugly Truth King. If you dig in this backdrop that the brother did for me, or you want your own personalized backdrop, go over to Ugly Truth King. You know what I'm saying, at IG and purchase one today. But today, I'm gonna be talking about education, right? Because a lot of us have been confused when it comes to what is the purpose of education. Like a lot of us think the purpose of education is to go out and get a job. We have to understand that education is survival. It doesn't matter what society that you are living in. Education is a form of survival. You can go to the people in the Amazon, they're teaching their children how to, make fires, how to fish. That's education, right? That is survival. You can go to African tribes. You can see that they're showing them how to use bow and arrows. That is survival. So education is survival. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. If you aren't being taught to survive or uplift your people, you are miseducated. A lot of us don't understand that. A lot of us don't understand when somebody goes to school and get a law degree that they're only indoctrinated or educated in law. Like you wouldn't go to your lawyer to do a surgery under your arm. You get what I'm saying? We think because someone's educated in one specific field that they are educated. We're like, oh man, my friend should know the answer. He's a doctor. And then you call your friend that's a doctor. He's like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? All I know is what I've been taught. Because education is survival, and you don't know what you have not been taught, right? And this is why we need an Afrocentric education. We need an African education that benefits us, because what's the point? What is the point of going to school and having these degrees if after we leave school, we don't have institutions to employ our most educated people to benefit our interests? I'll give you an example. There's been articles that came out about how black women are the most educated women within the Western society, right? They have the most degrees, et cetera, right? But when you look at our community, when you look at the unemployment rate, when you look at, the amount of money we spend with non-Africans, that reflection of education shows that it hasn't benefited us at all. As Dr. Amos Wilson says, isn't it coincidental that the more we go to school for business management, we don't have our own businesses to manage? That shows you that we're being miseducated. Now, why has this became a topic? Why am I talking about this? Well, I was watching a documentary that was being shot in Benin.
As the head of this family of fishermen, I have to make these kinds of decisions. We have clearly understood that educating our children in school is good for our people. But it is not always possible. I have sent the younger of my two grandchildren to school, but I cannot allow the oldest to go. He has to stay with us and learn the profession of his grandfather and help us with the akaja. The day will come when I won't be able to fish. Who will do it then? Who will collect the fish that feeds us?
It is a real problem for the children to come to school because they don't often find a canoe in time. The children usually get dressed and wait patiently to see if one of their friends passes by in a canoe in order to get a ride. The people understand that by sending a child to school means showing him the path to follow. They understand that sending a child to school is a true necessity.
Mardi 8 octobre 2002.
Très bien, un banc pour lui. La lettre O.
C'est la lettre A.
Très bien, la lettre A. Bien. Viens m'écrire la lettre A au tableau, je vais voir.
Now, from first glance, you would look at the documentary and you would say, oh, well, the young child is so sad. He couldn't go to school. He had to stay home with his grandfather and learn how to fish while the other child went off to school and got an education, right? Got an education. But let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, this child grows up, becomes a fisherman. He's able to feed his community, himself, and his family. This other child, after going to school for a certain amount of years, graduates and gets a degree. And at the end of that, there are no jobs waiting for him in Benin. The degrees are worthless if we do not create institutions to hire our own people. We are no different from our ancestors if we go to school for a certain amount of time and then turn around and ask white people to hire us. What's different from going to a job interview or being on an auction block at a slave, auction? What's the difference? Before, they would sell us, we got this big buck, big Negro. He can lift 250 pounds. He's strong. He got a big back. Now, today, we go to them and say, I can type 150 words a minute. I can do this. I can do that. Please hire me. The degrees should match the institutions. They should 100% match the institutions. We should not be out here just going to school because we want to please somebody. Listen, one thing I learned from the Jewish community, the Jewish community are very secretive to some degree, but one thing I learned from them is that they organize their children. They don't ask their children, what do you want to be when you grow up? They tell their children, this is what you're going to be when you grow up, because they understand that when they look at their community, the Jewish community, whether it's in New York, Miami, Philadelphia, wherever they exist at, they look at what they have in their community. They say, okay, we have 5 doctors over here. We have 6 doctors over here. We have a lawyer over there. We have, this over there. Okay, boom. My child needs to go to school to be a foot physician because we already have enough heart physicians in the Jewish community. They organize their children in that degree. Where after school, if they go into a field, they know that their community is going to support them. Come on, this is not hard. I don't understand why people don't understand that. And then they're like, oh, Brother Hassan, you just hate, the educational system. And I have no problem with education at all. But education should be a form of survival. I also want to take the time to add the fact that most schools in the European system are bringing back home economics, which is basically wood shop and, how to cook food and things like that, because they understand that culture, that education is survival. And so they were producing a bunch of kids that was graduating from high school and college that couldn't even cook a bowl of rice. And so they're introducing home economics back to the school system. Not all school systems, of course, but a large majority of them. Just wanted to add that side note.
Home economics back is what we're talking about right now. Our next guest is the focus on STEM education, such as science, technology, and math, have left our students without many critical life skills. We want to bring in Hugh Atchison right now. He is chef and founder of Seed Life Skills. Hugh, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, connect the dots for us. You're a renowned chef, and you now are creating this Seed Life Skills charity, wanting home ec back in the schools. Why?
Because it's a really easy fit into an existing class structure. It doesn't cost much to revamp curriculum and make it really retainable. But, home ec hasn't really kept up with the paces of how we've grown up as a society. But what we need to do, every 20-year-old needs to learn at 12 how to poach an egg, roast a chicken, how to read a lease and sign a cell phone contract. But we're not teaching those things. So if we can, then we kind of level the playing field. And I just want to empower kids to grow up, to have options, and to really be literate in what they're doing in this world. None of us really cook anymore. But so there are foundational things and skills and powers. It's kind of like merit badges.
I love it.
It's like urban homesteading.
Yeah, I think intelligence should be defined by the ability to solve problems. That's what intelligence is. The intelligence is the ability to solve problems, whether social, mathematical, scientific, or personal. That's why you go to so-called intelligent people to help them. Hey, can you ask, brother, I'm going through something. Can you give me some advice? Because you feel that person is intelligent enough to solve your problem or help you with your problem. Intelligence is the ability to solve a problem. So if you're going to school for 14 years, however long you're in school, And then you go for another 4 years. And then you come out and your people have a problem, whether it be social, whether it be economical, and you can't come up with a solution or a way to better our problem, then how do we classify people intelligent when you went to school for all these years? And the only thing that our education can do is better white society, because that's what it does. We get out, we run their businesses. You know, I often talk about this movie called Hidden Figures, where you see these beautiful African women took their intelligence to NASA, to better NASA, to help NASA get into space. See, since we live in a system of white supremacy, the culture teaches us how to solve other people's problems and not our problems. To solve their problems, not our problems. So we go to school to learn how to solve their problems. And then we make excuses to say, well, Negroes just don't want to try hard enough. Well, if black people did this, because we try to justify being miseducated. Understand that Malcolm X learned everything that he learned in a prison. The Nation of Islam are some very self-taught brothers. May not agree with their ideology, may not agree with it, but they're very disciplined and they're very read. We have to understand that. They seen a problem, and they Elijah Muhammad, Mr. Poole, whoever started the Nation of Islam, seen a problem and said, this is how we're going to straighten that problem out. Garvey seen a problem and said, this is how we're going to straighten that problem out. But if you're going to school for a certain amount of years and you come out with a degree certified by white folk and then say, I'm smart, but we can't solve our problems, that's a problem in itself. That is a problem within itself, right? And we have to understand that. It's nothing wrong with saying that you've been miseducated, because, again, the culture that you live in teaches you what education is. And so we have to redefine. We have to grab hold of our culture, and we have to say, this is what education is. We have a problem, and this is how we're going to solve our problem. All right? So I thank y'all for joining me. Again, like I said, I have no problem with, another thing too. One thing I have to understand is, since we live in a culture of white supremacy, before I get up out of here, let me just say this. A lot of times you would see that the most educated amongst us are useless to us. And when I mean educated, I mean indoctrinated. The most indoctrinated Negroes with the most degrees are usually the most useless amongst us. Almost every revolutionary we had was damn near a dropout, went to prison, didn't go to higher. Like, look at Garvey. Garvey came from Jamaica, didn't finish high school. You know what I'm saying? Look at Malcolm X. You have to look at that. Like, the more you're educated in this society, the more you're going to feel like you can move up in this society, and everybody's, just not doing it the way you're doing it, and you become useless to your people. Like Carter G. Woodson says, the educated Negro goes to school and becomes useless to his people once he comes home, because your degrees now have put you degrees above us. I'm not saying don't get them. I'm not saying don't go to school, but know what you're going for. Know what the bigger purpose to that. It's not just about you just feeding your family and this is what I always wanted to do. That's cool. You can do what you want to do. But as John Henry Clark says, make sure whatever you do, black people benefit from it. Until next time, family, think black, stay black, love black, support black, and that's real African black power.